and welcome back to my channel. So just a couple things before we get into this video. First off, welcome to 2024. I hope to film a lot more this year than I did last year, because I came back from my little hiatus and then I just kind of went on another one. At the point of me filming this video, I still need to film my reaction for Season 5, Episode 19 of Riverdale, which is the last episode of Season 5. So for this video, I'm going to be sharing the 40 books that I read in 2023. My reading goal for 2023 was to read 30 books, and I ended up reading 40, so that is absolutely fantastic. The first book that I read in 2023, well, the first book I finished in 2023, is a doozy. This chunky motherfucker. So technically I started this Christmas Eve of 2022 and I finished this January 29th of 2023. So it took me just over a full month to finish. I did try and read nearly every day, but like I would only read like 20 pages a day. So like if I really condensed it, I could have finished it a lot quicker, but whatever, it took me a month. If you don't know what this book is about, it is this first book in, it's currently a duology. I don't know if there's going to be more books, but there's currently 2 out. I haven't read the second one. I don't even own the second one because I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. So I'm not reading the second one in 2024. I'm so bad at remembering what happens in books and like explaining what happens in books. So you're just going to have to bear with me. But this is a fantasy book. I didn't really like it that much because it's a chunky book. This is actually the first like fantasy book I've ever read. And I decided to go with an 800-page book. Yeah, good on me. But I annotated it and tabbed it, so if I do ever read the second book, I'll do the same for that. I thought there was going to be more lesbian. That's literally the only reason I read this book, was because there was like lesbians in it. I would recommend this if you like fantasy. If you don't like fantasy and you're like, oh, I want to start getting into fantasy, what book should I read? Not this one. I don't really have any fantasy recommendations because this is like the only one I've read. The main enemy of this book are the dragons, or the what I call worms, like WYERMS, I think. I like the dragon type creatures, and they're trying to stop the big dragon from destroying everything basically. And it's like split up into different like POV. It's all third person, but it's split into kind of like different POVs and like different areas of the world. So there is a map at the front which I was turning back to a lot because I was very confused. Each chapter is like east, west, which is basically follows like the 2 different characters, and then eventually they meet up, obviously, because that's what's going to happen. But yeah, I gave it 4, I did give it 4 stars. So the next, basically 9 books are kind of not really books, and could be argued that they shouldn't count, but my argument is, some people don't count audiobooks as reading books. I definitely do. Obviously, it takes a lot less time. Like, people also count novellas, which is the reason why I'm counting these books. So I read the first 7, the Rainbow Magic series. It's literally just 2 girls. They go on holidays, and then they come across a fairy, and then they have to try, like, they have to get the fairies back to fairyland. That's literally what this entire series is, and it's split up into like different sections. So these are the rainbow fairies, so there's 7 of them, 1 for each colour. And then the next ones are the weather fairies, so there's like a breeze fairy and whatever the fuck, and it's all split into different types. So it's all the same book basically. They're all like 70 pages each, and the font is like massive, and there's pictures and stuff because it's literally for babies, but I count them. Sue me. I don't rate these either because, what is there to rate? Yeah, 5 stars. No, I'm not going to do that. So these are the next 7 books I read. Along the same wavelength, I read Tilly's Treasure, which is literally the same, like not the same world, but like, look how big this font is. There's like 6 words per page. I'm counting it. I don't care. And then I read Charlotte's Web, which is a little bit better because like, there's still pictures and stuff and it's like cute. Whatever, it's a kid's book. I think that's the end of like those types of books. The rest of them I read, like that was just January. I think because I started the year reading Priory of the Orange Tree, when I finished Priory, I'm like, okay, let's just build up my books that I've read. So let's just read all these little kid books just to try and like make myself feel better and be like, yeah, I'm actually reading a lot this year. So Whatever, that's just what I did. Sue me, I don't care. I also read Eat, Pray, Love, which is my first non-fiction book, and I didn't even realise it was non-fiction until about halfway through. It's actually a memoir of Elizabeth Gilbert's experience with finding her spirituality. So she goes to India, Indonesia, and Italy, and it was actually really good. I really liked it, and it actually opened my eyes to it a little bit, and I like seeing all the Sanskrit, like the writing and stuff. I gave it 4 stars. Honestly, it could be a 4.25, to be honest with you. The next book I read is the second book of a series, of the Girl Online series. I read the first one in 2022, I read the second and third in 2023. The Girl Online trilogy by Zoella, or Zoe Sugg, who is a YouTuber who's very popular in like 2014 to 2016-ish. It's literally just about a girl called Penny who is she has anxiety, and she's very like not antisocial, but like, what's it called? Introverted, and she doesn't really break out of her shell. And this whole series is just about her breaking out of her shell. Like she meets this boy in the first one. It turns out he's like a international like he's an American like pop star basically, and it's just like her experience. So the first one's just called Girl Online. This one's called On Tour because she goes on tour with him. And then the third one is going solo, so basically she's just like, yeah, she just does her own thing in the third one. I didn't, like, it's such another, like, whatever series. I gave the first one 3 stars, the second one 3.5, and I gave the third one 4 stars. So the fourth one was the best of the series, apparently. But if I were to recommend a Zoe Sugg book or series to you, it is the Magpie Society series. There are 2 books in it's a duology. The next book, Night of the Flood, I'm not going to reread it. I gave it 3 stars. It was average. I don't really remember what it was about. 1950s. A girl lives on a farm. There's a big flood, and there's just a lot of like family drama. Like, it's one of those books, and whoops. Then I read They Both Die at the End. Surprise, surprise. They both die at the end. I gave it 4 stars. If I would have cried, I would have given it 4.5, I think. There is a second one, or like a prequel. I think there's a prequel book to it. Haven't read that. So there's this organization, I guess, that notifies you the day you're gonna die. Like, you know the day you're gonna die, but you don't know like the exact time and you don't know how. So you could be walking down the street a minute after you got the notification to say you're gonna die today, and you could be hit by a car. You could like live the entire day in fear and get to like 11:59 and then just like die of a heart attack. Like, it could be anything, it doesn't tell you. But these two boys both get notified that they're gonna die on that day. And then, so they don't know each other. They meet. Then the other one's very outgoing and is like, dude, let's live out this day together. And they just go on a bunch of little adventures, and then they end up falling in love, and then the ending is very traumatic. Like, the way one of them dies, oh my god, like, it's so traumatic. Anyway, the next one is Starless Sea. So I read The Night Circus in 2022. I liked Starless Sea more than I liked The Night Circus. I don't know, I think it's just because of the mindset I was in. So in 2022, I wasn't like that big of a reader, but this year I was. This concept is about, so Night Circus is about a circus. This one's about like a book, and it's like very Matrix Inception-y, not Matrix, like Inception-y, where it's like the boy finds a book in his library, and the book is actually about his life, and he's like, what the fuck is happening? And then there's little stories in this book, which is in the book that he's reading as well, but it's also stuff that's happening in real life. Like, it's so, like, both of the books are very, like, mind-fucky, but they're both really good. Like, Erin Morgenstern, oh my god. Oh, I didn't even rate this book. Okay, I gave The Night Circus 4 stars, so I'm gonna give this one 4.25 because I did like it slightly better, but I don't think it's enough for me to give it a 4.5. Just because sometimes with these mindfuck books, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. So, yeah, 4.25. I started the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. I plan to read the second and third book in the series in 2024. So it's about this girl, Pip, So there is a closed case of a girl that died in her town 5 years ago, and for her year 12, her AP English advanced placement English class, I think it is, she wants to investigate the case because it's a closed case, but they never actually found the person who did it. They just assumed it was this other kid, but she's like, no, I don't think it's him. So she goes into this deep dive. She's 17, trying to solve a murder. From what I remember, there wasn't really a cliffhanger. I think it kind of wrapped up pretty good, from what I remember. So we'll see what the second and third book brings, but apparently people like the second and third book better, I believe. I gave that one, the first one, 4.5. So we'll see what happens in the rest of the series. So the next one is the first book of the year that I rated under 3 stars. I gave it 2.5. When looking back on it, I might actually change it to 2 stars because it was just a struggle. It is a classic, and I don't know how many more classics I'm going to be able to read. I did read another classic this year. This is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. It's not a huge book, but it's pretty big. It's 500 pages, and it just took me so long to read, and it was just so boring, and I kept spacing out. I have no idea what this book is about. All I know is that Oliver Twist is an orphan, and then he starts stealing stuff, and he gets with a wrong group of friends. That's literally all I remember. It's set in the 1800s or whatever, the early 1900s. Kiss Her Once for Me. It's a lesbian sapphic romance set around Christmas time. Yeah, set around Christmas time. So it's just about 2 girls. They meet on Christmas Eve in a bookstore. So so she's about to get evicted, and she works at a coffee shop, and then she ends up the owner of the coffee shop or whatever, not her boss, but the owner of the coffee shop. He's going to get money because one of his grandma died, but he has to be married in order to get it, or it was one of his grandparents. Ellie ends up marrying him. It's a big plot twist, but it's, not plot twist, it's a big part of it, but that's not what the book's about. The book is not about this plot twist, so I'm just gonna fucking say it anyway. If you want to read this book, skip ahead, but whatever. Andrew, the guy, ends up bringing Ellie to his family Christmas. And who just so happens to be there? Jack, the girl that Ellie met at the bookstore on Christmas Eve. Turns out Jack is Andrew's sister. So it's a little awkward because Jack and Ellie spent some time together. Not really, but they spent the day together after they met. And they never spoke again, but Ellie, they loved each other. Come on. There's a lot of drama, but it was very wholesome and cute and whatever. 4.5, really liked it. The next book I read is One of Us Is Next, which is the second book. The first one is called One of Us Is Lying. I know there is a TV show of it, so there's 2 seasons out at the moment, I think. So the first season was based on the first book, so I watched the first season, but when I was watching the show, I hadn't yet read this one, so I couldn't watch season 2. So now I can watch season 2, I guess. I gave this one 4.5. I gave the first one 4.5 as well. And then there is a third one, One of Us Is Back. The next book I read is The Kiss Quotient, which I saw a little bit of on TikTok and stuff, but not a lot of people talking about it. I gave this one 5 stars. There's a little bit of spice in it. I believe I read this in 2 days, which is unheard of for me. I ate this book up. I think this is one of the only books that I ate up. I think that's why I gave it 5 stars, because I just enjoyed it so much. She has Asperger's, I think I'm pronouncing that correct. So she kind of finds it hard to social interactions and whatnot. She hires someone to come and teach her how to have sex, basically. And then, the normal thing, they end up falling in love, blah, blah, blah. There is a little bit of spice in this. The next book is She Gets the Girl by Rachel Lippincott and Alison Derrick. Rachel Lippincott is one of my favourite authors of all time. She co-wrote 5 Feet Apart. This is the 3rd book I've read by her. I also have another book by her that I've read. But I gave this one 4 stars. I know I gave 5 Feet Apart 5 stars, and I gave All This Time 5 stars as well, because I love that. I love both those books so much. This one only got a 4 stars. It's called She Gets the Girl. Obviously, it's sapphic. But Molly's basically in love with this other girl, but it's like she's more in love with the idea of the girl, which you find out, like you figure out later. Then Alex is trying to help Molly get the girl. Not even the first half, like less than the first half. I already knew like how it was gonna end, and it did end like that. So like I wasn't upset with how it ended because it was exactly what I thought it was gonna end like, but it didn't hit the same as the other two. Moonfleet by J. Mead Faulkner. This is the second classic I read, and this one's about like pirates and stuff, so it was a little bit more interesting. Like Oliver Twist was just basically like, so it was just so long and boring and about nothing. Moonfleet was also kind of about nothing, but it was about nothing and pirates, so it was more interesting. This is Deadly Education, the first book in the Deadly Education trilogy. So it goes Deadly Education, and then it's The Last Graduate, and then it's The Golden Enclaves. I plan to read the rest of the series this year, 2024. I gave this one 4.5 stars. Her name is Elle. So the school is basically, there's lots of monsters, and the school basically has a mind of its own and will like try and kill the students basically. You like train and you use like, there's like magic in it. Like Elle is pretty like advanced and like a dark witch, if you will. So like she has the power to basically like kill everyone. And she doesn't really want to do that. Like she kind of does want to do that, but she knows the consequences of if she does it. So she like doesn't want to do that. Like, if that makes sense. It's very like high stakes. The next book I read is one of the 5 stars I had for this year. It is A Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. So this one and the next 2 were in my what I read in July video, whatever, in August video, I don't know. I did those videos for like 2 months. Then I instantly started annotating and tabbing it, so yeah. I don't annotate and tab a lot of books. Like I did Hunger Games and Maze Runner, but like this I was not expecting to. I really enjoyed it. Like the Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, it's exactly what you think it is. A lesbian trying to get through Catholic school. Like, there's not a lot happening, but it's great. Oh my god, can you see my... We're going to ignore that because I cannot be bothered getting changed. It is summer here in Australia. It is very fucking hot, as you can probably tell. I'm shiny. The light does not help. So we're just going to move on from that. Maybe I'll shrink down a little bit so you can't see it. Whatever. Moving on. I don't want to hear about it. The next book, another one, The Other One by Rachel Lippincott. I also love that like all the books go together so well. It's like, I think it's just because the font's the same. So like the covers don't really go together, but like the spines go together so well, and the other 2 books are like the same. Like they all just go together. It's so satisfying. Emily's mum dies, and she finds her mum's bucket list from when she was like her age, and she's basically, the whole book is just her trying to live through the bucket life, trying to complete the bucket list. That's her goal, and I gave it 4 stars. It's not like those 2 Rachel Lippincott books compared to All This Time and 5 Feet Apart. They didn't hit the same. And then I read the third Girl Online book. I'm not going to talk about it because I already did earlier. I gave that one 4 stars. That's my favourite of the series. Don't remember what happens, but whatever. The next one is Full Throttle. So this is actually the first works, whatever, that has to do with Stephen King that I've read. This entire section down here, this is all Stephen King. I have about 17 Stephen King books. Have I read any? No. This one is a short story collection by Joe Hill, which has 2 short stories in it that Stephen King co-wrote. Joe Hill is actually Stephen King's son. I don't really like these that much. They're like horror ones, which obviously that's what Stephen King does, but I actually didn't even read the last one, I'm pretty sure. I think it just took me so long to read this, and I'm like, I just want to move on. Like, I'm pretty sure I got into like a little bit of a slump reading this. I was like, it's just so long and I don't care. So yeah, technically I didn't finish it, but whatever. I gave it 3.25 because like I enjoyed it a little bit, and there was like 2 or 3 that I really enjoyed, but for the majority I was like, this ain't it. I have a lot more hope for the rest of Stephen King's actual work. I read A Man Called Ove. I gave this 3 stars. It was kind of a bit boring for me. It's basically just about a grumpy old guy that's trying to kill himself. So I would recommend it, but I just didn't enjoy it that much. This is the first in an 8-part series. It's for like teenagers. Like it's not, like it's younger than young adult. This isn't a young adult series. It's like a teen, like it's a series for teenagers. So like, it's not that fantastic. Like it's not the best thing I've ever read. It's basically about this kid, Artemis Fowl. He's very smart. So like fairies and like fantastical creatures. The main characters, like Artemis is 12 years old, so if that gives an indication of the target audience. I gave it a 3.5 because like it was okay. Like I read through it. It was pretty quick. Like it's a quick book, easy to understand. I enjoyed it. I'm excited to keep reading the series. I don't really plan to like continue the series in 2024, but like I will probably end up reading probably like two or three more of the series. I don't know. We'll see. This one I gave 3.5. This is Live a Little by Madeline Reese. I'm assuming that's how you say it. Yeah, 3.5. I think this is the last one I mentioned in the what I read in August or whatever video. 2 sisters, one of them's very outgoing and the other's very reserved. They go on a road trip to kind of, I think Tina tries to get Lottie to go out of her shell. And like it was pretty obvious what was going to happen at the end. Like one of them, so at the start, one of them's reserved and one of them's very outgoing. And then at the end, what do you think happens? I didn't like it that much. I don't know what to tell you. The next one is Wearing Paper Dresses by Anne Brinston. This is an Australian book. Actually, I think I talked about this one in that video as well. Maybe. I gave this 3 stars. It was kind of average. I just didn't really care. Like, it's just kind of about a mum that has mental illness that isn't treated. So untreated mental illness, and then she just like doesn't parent her kids at all, and then one of them, yeah, it's just a lot of stuff happens basically. The next book is a set of 3 short stories, I guess, wintry, snowy themed. It's Let It Snow by John Green, the author of Fault in Our Stars, Maureen Johnson and Lauren Miracle. So it's a set of 3 stories. Each of them wrote one of them. When you get into the first story, you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then when you read the second story, there's a bit of overlap with the first one. And then the third story has overlap with both of them. But from what I remember, there isn't really a point where all the stories kind of converge, which is what I was hoping would happen. Like there is a reference to everything in each of them, but it's not like a point where like all the characters like from each thing are like together, which I kind of wanted, but this was fine. I gave it 4 stars. Like it was quite good and it's quite easy to read, but I just wasn't that into it. The next one is a start of a fantasy series, A Discovery of Witches. This is the first book. The series is actually called All Souls. I plan to read the second book, which is Shadow of Night, I think. I plan to read that book in 2024. I'm not sure if I'm going to read both of them. I might, but it's just because they're a bit long. I did quite enjoy this. I gave this 4.25. Diana is a witch. She meets Matthew, who is a vampire, and there's this book that Diana finds that's like basically wanted by every other creature. So there's 3 types of creatures. Witches, well technically 4 I guess. There's 4 different groups of people. Witches, vampires and demons, they're the 3 supernatural ones, and then there's humans as well, like humans are in it. I read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I didn't annotate this one. I did annotate the original trilogy, but I was like, don't think I'm gonna like it enough to annotate it, to be honest, and I was correct. I did rate it 3.5 because like it was a bit better than average, but the movie is basically the book reincarnated. Like there's not that much different. Like, obviously there are little bits of information that you don't get in the movie but you don't get the inner monologue that you do in the book. So it's kind of, if you're just watching the movie, you don't really know what he's, like you kind of know what he's thinking, but you don't know exactly what he's thinking. Does that make sense? Anyway, yeah, I liked the book. The movie was alright, you know. The Wife Who Knew Too Much by Michelle Campbell. I gave this 1.5 stars. This is my lowest rated book of the year. It was just boring, and there was like cheating in it. There was a pregnancy thing, which is a bit of a spoiler, but like no one's gonna read this book, so I just didn't like it. Yeah, I could get, because they're adults, so I could get over the pregnancy thing a little bit, but it was like cheating and whatever, and I was like, fuck this. I did finish it, but I was like, I'm not enjoying this at all. I read The Love Hypothesis, which has been on my shelf for forever. This one was pretty good. I rated it 4.5. Yeah, it's just like Olive's a PhD student at like university or college or whatever the fuck it's called in America. Fake dating trope, which is always lovely. Then I read the second book in the Maze Runner trilogy, Maze Runner series. It is not a trilogy. Yeah, so I rated the first book 4 stars. That was 3.5. The next book I read is The Summer I Turned Pretty. Now, so I'm just going to say now, I read the first one because I had the first one, and then I was like, okay, I want to watch the show, but I don't want to just have to watch the first season and then not be able to watch the second season, and then the third season comes out at some point. So her name is Isabel, the main girl is Isabel, but her nickname is Belly, which, reading it, I was like, this is so fucking annoying. Watching it in the show is fine. And then I listened to the second and third book on audio. So only the second book I read in 2023, because technically I finished the third book in 2024. So that'll be in next year's wrap up or whatever. Yeah, it was a lot better to listen to it because the narrator, or the narrators, of the audiobooks for this series are actually the actors from the show. One of the love interests, I guess. It's basically like a love triangle, the entire show, kind of. For at least the first book, or even the second book, I guess, it's kind of like a Twilight situation where it's like obvious that it's obvious which one she's gonna end up with. I don't like Conrad, I'm sorry, I didn't like him in the book, I don't really like him in the show. Jeremiah is just so nice. Rated this one 3 stars. I rated the second one 3.5 because it was a little bit better. I found it to be a little bit better than... It was fine. It was fine. So I read The Summer I Turned Pretty, the first book, and then I read this book, The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo. And then technically the last book I read was the second Summer I Turned Pretty book. But since I already talked about the whole series, I'm just going to use this as the last book of the video. 3.25 stars. So these two people, Lucy and Gabe, they meet in New York in 2001 in September on the 11th. Yeah, so they meet on 9/11. Like, why? And they kiss just as the planes, not just as the planes hit, but like as the building is coming to the floor, they kiss. Okay? It wasn't that great. I don't know why I picked up that book. I guess I didn't read the back of it. So that wraps up the 40 books that I read in 2023. So I was originally planning on doing a monthly wrap up of the books I read in the month, which I did for like 2 months. I think I did it for July and August. Can't be bothered, to be honest. I'd rather just do what I did today and just do it yearly. So at the end of 2024, in December, hopefully, I will come back and do my what I read in 2024 video, and hopefully there are another 40 books. If not, I'm going to be upset. And let's hope that this number gets down a lot. Again, apologise that my Riverdale Season 5 Episode 19 video has not come out yet. I haven't filmed it yet. So I'm going to get this video out, film that Riverdale video, get that out next. So the next video you see from me will be the Riverdale video. And then after I finally get past that Riverdale video, I'm going to upload my 24 books I want to read in 2024. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click like and subscribe to my channel to see more from me. Turn on post notifications to be notified of whenever I upload next. Thanks for watching.